Hi and welcome back to my channel. If you're one of the 39 people that saw the book that wouldn't burn review, thank you so much. I didn't think anyone would see it, so I'm eternally grateful. If you're not one of those 39, then welcome. I saw this book newbie tag on someone else's channel. If I can find that video again, then I'll link it down below. Because I thought it was really nice, and I thought it was a great way for you guys to get to know me and just kind of know a bit of what I'm about and why I'm doing this, and just to get to know each other just a little bit better. So I'm gonna grab myself a quick pan ad and then we'll get straight into it. Let's go. Okay. Question number one is, why did I start this channel? So I don't know, there's a few reasons really. I've kind of always wanted to start a YouTube channel. I have a background in sort of filmmaking and stuff like that, especially from my uni days, and it was always something that I really loved and enjoyed. The other reason was something happened back in January to my family, which was quite tragic, and it was kind of one of those moments that kind of really shook me to my core, and I kind of went on a bit of a spiral about my life. It was very existential crisis sort of thing that resulted in therapy and a whole lot of other finding myself moments, and also helping me find my confidence. So in the end, a couple of weeks ago, I was just like, fudge it, why not? So here we are. The third reason is that I miss being in an environment where I can discuss arts and books and just be part of a community that kind of gets this. As I live in sort of a smallish community, they're very sort of, and the people that I work with and spend a lot of time with, they're very close-minded when it comes to books, and sometimes I can find that quite difficult. I do discuss things with my parents and my boyfriend and my best mate, but they don't quite get it. So part of me wanted to create this channel so I could find my community that gets it, if that makes sense. And then the third reason is that I kind of feel quite stuck in terms of profession and growing my skills and all that sort of stuff. So this is kind of a way for me to develop skills that I've always had for a few years, but to just kind of keep them fresh and find new ways of doing things. And yeah, so that was kind of a ramble, but that's kind of in a nutshell why I wanted to start this channel. Okay, so question 2 is, what are some fun and unique things that you can bring to Booktube? I don't know, that's kind of like undecided at the moment. But I do think that every booktuber is unique, only because everyone reads a book differently. Everyone interprets a book or a story differently. Yes, okay, there is some crossover and some overlapping and things like that, but I do think that our individual experiences makes us interpret a story completely differently to someone else. And I also think time has an impact on that as well. I think that if I read my favourite book today and then read it a year from now, I would interpret it differently. Like, I would probably gravitate to a different character than I had before and all that sort of stuff. So I think that just everyone's general experiences and unique perspective on things makes each individual booktuber slightly different. Yes, okay, we'll try and have that gimmick that hooks people in and stuff like that, but I don't know, I think it's people's different interpretations of different books is why people watch them. So hopefully there's that, my unique perspective. But I also think the fact that hopefully through this channel I want to explore more Welsh literature. So I'm Welsh. I'm so proud to be Welsh. I am trying to learn the language as we speak. And the more that I've been learning the language, I've started to notice that the language actually crops up in so many stories, especially fantasy stories. I mean, you can trace Welsh back to Tolkien, so essentially Tolkien based Elvish off of Welsh, and the fact that Celtic, not just Welsh Celts, but Scottish, Gaelic, all the Celtic countries within the UK have such a massive impact on fantasy stories, even Nordic and all those cultures as well. So, and I just want to be able to explore that a little bit more. So hopefully I can take you guys on a journey with me through Welsh literature and how Celtic heritage and Celtic culture has had an impact on fantasy and books as a whole. Does that make sense? Question 3. What are you most excited for about this channel? I don't know. I think I'm excited to be able to share my passion with other people who are like-minded, and just to meet new people and kind of just get into discussions and debates around literature and books, and that makes me really excited because I don't get to do that often, and I really, really want to. But I'm also kind of nervous about it. I think when you put yourselves online, you kind of open yourself up to criticism in some form, and I think for anyone that can be quite nerve-wracking. So that's a little bit, I'm a little bit nervous, but mainly excited. Question 4. Why do I love reading? I think for me, I use it as an escape. When I was a teenager, I used it as an escape from bullying. But then as I got older and I found out more about the world, I just kind of wanted to escape from it. But I just love how it can transport you to a completely different world. And I also love the fact that it can invoke such deep emotions in me. I think it was back last year when I first moved into my house, I read The God of Lost Words by A.J. Hackwith, and I got to the point where it made me cry that much I couldn't actually see the book, and it was just like, it was one of those moments where it ripped out my heart and kind of trampled on it and then put it back together again. And I love that feeling when I read a book, to invoke such an emotion in someone like that is just, I find it phenomenal. And the talent that people have to create these worlds, these characters, and have it all make sense and just paint a picture in my mind is just phenomenal. And I will never get bored of that. So I think that's kind of why I like reading, or love reading. Yeah. Number five. So number 5, what book or series got you into reading? I think I remember 3 distinct times and 3 distinct series that kind of put me on the path. The first one was Twilight. I remember when I read the first one, I loved it and then completely devoured the entire series. I still have my original copies from when I was about 13, 14 years old. They're up here somewhere. The second one was The Hunger Games. And I devoured them as well. And then I think I was probably about 16, 17 when I read The Hunger Games. And then when I was about 18, 19, I found the Mistborn trilogy. So when I read The Final Empire by Brandon Sanderson, that changed everything. And it was just a book that was all encompassing. The characters, the setting, everything, it just gripped me, it pulled me in, and it was just so much fun to go on this adventure with Vin and Kelsey and Ellen and all of them, and I absolutely loved it. And to this day, virtually every other year, I will reread the entire original trilogy. My copy is falling apart, and I think that's where I kind of went down into a Brandon Sanderson hole. From there, I went on to Elantris and like Warbreaker, and just it just became a genre that I completely fell in love with. And that's where the obsession started. So yeah, so the series is I can never say that right. But the series that got me into reading were, first of all, Twilight, then Hunger Games, and then Mistborn. Question 6. What questions would you ask your favourite booktubers? I think I'm just going to slightly change that and just ask, who are your favourite booktubers? Because I think I'm going to hype up some really good channels. So I have 3 main booktubers that I follow on Booktube. And if anyone has any other recommendations for Booktube or booktubers, please let me know in the comments. I would love to find more that I can follow. My bank balance probably won't like that, but I would. So my 3 favourites are Elliot Brooks, Daniel Greene, and Merphy Napier. They all are booktubers that cover mainly sort of like fantasy books and sci-fi books, but they do kind of dabble into different things, and I kind of love that. And because of them, I've kind of expanded my reading tastes more. Like, I never thought I would be a manga fan, and now I've kind of become obsessed. Like, I kind of love it. I think it's a wonderful way of reading, especially if you don't kind of want to focus too heavy on words. I think sometimes it's nice to have a heavy story but not have to think about the words that you're reading. I think that's one good thing about manga. You still get the punch of a really good story, but you don't have to focus so much on the world building and things like that. So I think sometimes reading manga is a nice little break from the heaviness that fantasy can bring sometimes. Daniel Greene's really cool. I think his energy is just amazing. He's always really chipper, and his fantasy news is fantastic. If you want to know what's going on in the fantasy realm, I would highly recommend checking out his channel. And then Merphy Napier is one that I've kind of found recently. I stumbled upon it on my suggestions page, but I love her deep dives. Like, she does really good sort of dives into characters and explains the story really well. And I just love how she kind of just presents the books as a whole, and they just seem really genuinely lovely people. So yeah, I don't think I'd actually ask them anything. I would just kind of want to chat to them and just get to know them and be their friends. That's kind of all I would like to do. So yeah, so I will link their channels below, but if you have any other booktuber recommendations, let me know in the comments. I would love to explore more. I think we're about halfway. So we're going to move on to question 7. And that is, what challenges do you think a booktube channel will be the hardest to overcome? So essentially, what challenges do I need to overcome when starting a booktube channel? I think for me, my biggest challenge was myself. It was essentially trying to find the confidence to actually put myself out there and to quiet that voice in my head that says I'm no good. I think that was one of the biggest challenges that I personally had. I do think that maybe people think that they need to have all the right equipment and the lighting and all that sort of stuff. I don't think you need to. I film on my phone, and then I have like 2 lamps and a main light on to try and get the lighting right. I think so it's not so much to overthink your setup and stuff like that. If you have something you want to say, pop up your phone and kind of go with it and see where it goes. And I also think one of the biggest challenges for me will be time. So I work full time, so I work 9 to 5, Monday to Friday. So it's kind of like the planning, the research, and the sort of everything that goes in with it. Thankfully, I have a very understanding partner who's kind of on board with this. So he's kind of very like quite helpful in terms of like, well, I'm going to go film, and he'd be like, all right, go do it. So yeah, I think the biggest challenge is when starting a Booktube channel is kind of like, well, for me was myself, not overthinking the setup and time. But generally speaking, I think if you want to make a success of this, it will probably be, you know, trying to have that thing that stands you apart from everyone else. For me, I'm not overly bothered. I just kind of want to sit and chat and, you know, develop a community that kind of wants to sit and chat as well. I mean, I'm 30 this year. I'm not too bothered about growing a channel and stuff. If it does, grand. If it's not, then it's just me talking to my camera, and that's all right too, because, you know, I kind of enjoy myself. I'm going to combine question 8 and 9. So question 8 is, when did you start reading? And question 9 is, where do I read? So when I started reading, I was a teenager. Like I said previously, I was about 13, 14 when I really started to develop a love for reading. But my parents have always kind of like read books to us, like We're Going on a Bear Hunt and Winnie the Witch and some wonderful old classics. And where do I read? Like any bookworm, I read anywhere. I carry a book with me. I mean, this entire time I've been filming this, my current read has been sat just off screen. I wasn't going to read it. It's just comforting to have it with me, you know? So any spare 5 minutes I have, it's open and I try and get into it. I don't get to read as much as I would like. Unfortunately, like, you know, as a young person, we have to have a social life. But, and just to be clear, I quite like having a social life. It's just sometimes too social and I would like to read more. But yeah, so I would like to read a little bit more and do more like longer sprints of reading. But it is what it is. Yeah, so I started reading when I was 13, 14, and I will read anywhere I possibly can. And again, for the last 2 questions, 10 and 11, I'm also going to combine them. So number 10 is, what kind of books do you like to read? And number 11 is, what does your book collection look like? So the books that I like to read, if you can kind of see behind me, is mainly fantasy. But I do like to dabble in other things. So I'll read historical fiction, general fiction. I have a whole sort of non-fiction section in my collection, and I currently am doing my best to kind of broaden the non-fiction. So my aim is to read sort of like maybe like 5 non-fiction books by the end of the year. And I think I've read about 3 so far. So I'm on a good sort of roll. And what does my book collection look like? Now, the majority of it is, you can see it behind me. And I'll do a quick video. But this is really funny because when me and my partner were looking for our first house, which we bought last year, yes, before, you know, everything went hoo-ha with mortgages, I said to him I wanted to have a spare room so I could have a library. Not for a spare room, we have a sofa bed in the library, but we have a library. I have a library. And that it's so fun to say. So I'll just quickly talk through it and then I'll try and do a close-up, but we'll see. So yeah, my books are arranged in genre and then in alphabetical order. I love people who can do theirs like color coded. Me personally, or in height order. Me personally, I have a thing where it just makes my brain do lally if it's not in alphabetical order. So yeah, so fantasy starts up in the top far corner here and goes for the roughly next sort of two full shelves, and then I go into general fiction, then into classics, and then non-fiction. So I will hopefully do a little close up on some of the shelves. Yeah, so that is my get to know me. Okie dokie. Yeah, so that was my book newbie get to know me video. If you liked that and kind of want to see what I have to say about some other books, just click the subscribe button. That would be really nice if you did. Or just click the little boxes that appear at the end of the videos. I have one review up at the moment, and I have a couple of shorts just messing around. So yeah, if you'd like to see what else I have got going, check it out. I'll also put my Bookstagram handle in the description. So if you want to head over there and see what else I've been reading, then you can do that if you'd like. If not, my aim is to try and put out a new video every week. Just because of timings and stuff like that, it can't be more regular, unfortunately. Yeah, but stay tuned, and thanks again for watching. Bye.